Welcome back, everyone. Today we're making a Lux Fanny Pack. This fanny pack measures in at 10 by 6 with a 3.5-inch depth. It's a simple design with a luxury finish, so if you're new to sewing, you should have no problem following the easy step-by-step tutorial. With all that being said, don't forget to grab the PDF pattern and let's get started. Getting started supplies, you need a half yard for your main fabric, and you can pretty much use any style of fabric for this project. I do recommend using a heavier weight fabric. A lot of this bag is built off the structure of the fabric. I'm gonna be using an upholstery fabric. It's heavier weight, and that's gonna give it a lot of nice structure once this bag is complete. But like always, get creative with it, test different fabrics, and find what works best for you. You'll need a half yard for your secondary fabric, and this is gonna be for the lining on the inside of the bag. For this fabric, I do recommend going on the lighter weight side, because if you're using a heavier weight fabric for the main fabric, once you start stacking all these layers together at the end, it can get pretty bulky, so a lighter weight lining typically works best. You'll need 2 zippers, one 15-inch and one 6-inch. I'm gonna be cutting mine off of a zipper roll. It's a great way to go. You get a precise cut and you'll reduce a lot of the waste. You'll need 1 to 2 yards of 1 to 1.5-inch width webbing, and this is gonna be used for the strap. It really comes down to preference on which size you wanna use. I'm gonna be using a 1.5-inch width. I just really like the way this size looks and feels. In the hardware going along with the webbing, you'll need 2 O-rings, 1 strap adjuster, 1 D-ring, and 2 lobster clasps. We're making a very specific style of strap. It's a little more high-end, so it requires a bit more hardware. The biggest thing about the hardware, if you do choose to change the size of your webbing, you're gonna wanna match the hardware width to the width of your webbing. And lastly, you'll need your pattern. This pattern is available at properfitclothing.com. It's super easy to use. All you have to do is print it out, tape it together, and you're ready to go. Before you tape the pattern together, the best thing to do is to cut off the top and one of the side edges. This is gonna allow you to overlap the pages for a perfectly aligned pattern. And once you have your pattern printed off and all your supplies gathered, it's time to move into cutting. And after printing out your pattern, it should look like this. Be sure to check your printer alignment for the best possible results. And from here, we're gonna cut on the outside of the black line. Once you cut out all the panels, you should end up with 4 lining pocket side panels, all cut out of your secondary fabric. 1 zipper cut to the sides of the guide, and this is for the inside pocket. It's optional. If you're not gonna add the inside pocket, you don't need to make this cut. 2 strap and cap panels. This is another optional cut. We're making a very specific type of strap. I'm cutting mine out of leather. You can cut them out of leather, vinyl, or any heavier weight fabric. But we'll get more into this once we get started. 1 lining pocket bottom panel cut out of your secondary fabric. 1 lining pocket top panel cut out of your secondary fabric. 2 back pocket panels, 1 cut out of your secondary fabric and 1 cut out of your main fabric. 2 top main panels, 1 cut out of your secondary fabric and 1 cut out of your main fabric. And lastly, 2 back main panels, 1 cut out of your secondary fabric and 1 cut out of your main fabric. Alright, moving on to assembly, we're going to start by grabbing the back pocket panels, and using the pattern, we're going to locate the top edge. And this is where we're going to be making the stitch. So we're going to place the right sides together and stitch that top edge at a 1/4-inch seam allowance. After finishing up the stitch, flip the wrong sides together, lining up the top and bottom edge. You want those 2 layers to be perfectly lined up, and once you have them lined up, place a few pins and add a top stitch. This will become our new back pocket assembly, and for the moment, it's totally complete, so we can place it off to the side and grab our lining pocket side panels along with the zipper cut guide. Cut your zipper to the length of the zipper cut guide, separate all of your lining pocket side panels, and we're going to place these on the ends of the zipper with right sides together, sandwiching the zipper in between both of the panels. Zippers do come in various widths, so if the panels are not lining up, you're going to want to change the width of your lining pocket side panels. But from here, we're going to stitch both sides at a 1/4-inch seam allowance. After stitching, fold the wrong sides together, line up the outside edges. Just like in previous steps, we're going to add a top stitch to both sides of the zipper. This will become our new zipper assembly for the inside pocket, and for the moment, we can slide it to the side and grab the lining pocket top panel and the lining pocket bottom panel. Using the pattern, locate the zipper edge, and this is where we're going to attach it to the zipper. So place the right sides together, lining it up on the zipper edge, and do this for both panels. We're going to start with the top panel, sew it down, flip it upright, and then sew the bottom panel. And I'm sewing both sides at a 1/4-inch seam allowance. Open up the assembly with right sides facing up. If done correctly, the length of the zipper assembly should be the same length as the lining panels, and from here we're going to add a top stitch to both sides. And after finishing up the top stitch, we're going to move to the top and bottom edge, roll them in a 1/4-inch, and press it down. The fabric I'm working with is very silky, so it's hard to press. If you're working with a similar fabric, it's probably best to use pins. And then we're going to move to the side edges and do the same thing. Roll them in a 1/4-inch and press them down. Then we're going to slide the lining assembly to the side and grab the back main panels. For this step, we only need the secondary fabric, so we can place the main fabric panel off to the side. Flip the secondary panel around so the right side is facing up. Using the pattern, we're going to place it on top and locate the lining pocket placement guide. And this is just the general area of where you want your pocket to be placed. Feel free to chalk it out on your secondary fabric or just eyeball it. You mainly want it to be under the curves on the side and then out of the 1/4 inch seam allowance on the bottom. Given that information, you can also make this pocket bigger, but from here we're going to stitch all the way around the outside edge. Take your time and try to make it as neat as possible. As you can see, mine didn't turn out that great because this fabric is very hard to work with. I typically would de-thread it, try it again, or even swap out that fabric for a different fabric with more structure so the pocket is more square and sits better. And not all fabrics work the same, some are very hard to use, so keep that in mind, but for the moment we can place this assembly off to the side and grab your main zipper. This zipper is going to be cut to 13¼ inches because we're going to be rolling the front zipper train in towards the outside edge. This is done by folding in the sides, gluing it, or sewing it down. After doing this, the finished zipper should be exactly 13 inches. From here we're going to move to the opposite side and grab a very lightweight webbing or ribbing and roll it over the edge and sewing it down. And it doesn't have to be the same width, we can trim it up after we sew it down. And you don't need to use webbing or ribbing, you can use fabric or anything that seals off that end. If you did go the webbing route, you can trim the ends flush with the zipper width. This is a nylon based webbing, so I'm going to use a lighter to seal the ends. It's not mandatory, but it does prevent fraying. At this point, the zipper is ready, so we're going to grab the back main panels, separate the layers. Using the pattern, locate the zipper edge at the top of the panel. Place the right side of the zipper to the right side of the main fabric, and I like starting at the center point, so I mark the center of the zipper and the center of the main panel. I start from there and then work towards the outside, and then we're going to place the right side of the secondary fabric to the opposite side of the zipper. And if done correctly, the zipper is not going to go all the way to that curved edge on the side. It will fall short of that curved edge on both sides, and that's what we want. And for this stitch, we're actually going to sew that entire top edge starting at the curve on the left and going to the curve on the right, sewing at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. After finishing up the stitch, flip the right sides out, double check both layers. Sometimes you'll miss a layer and you have to go back and re-stitch, make sure everything is looking good. If it checks out, we're going to line up that bottom curved edge and the top zipper edge. I do recommend placing a few pins so the layers don't shift around, and then add a top stitch. Definitely take your time, the stitch will be front and center, so you want it to look as neat as possible. Sometimes you can skip the top stitching step, but for this one, I highly recommend doing it because it's really going to bring out the curve in that edge. But anyways, moving on, grab your back pocket assembly and we're going to place it on the bottom edge with both right sides facing up. Again, it's best to mark the centers and then make your alignment so the pocket turns out level. And from here, we're going to stitch the bottom edge as close as we can to that outside edge. We're essentially just setting the pocket so it's level and easier to assemble in future steps. Next, we're going to grab the top main panel, separate the layers so the right sides are facing up. Using the pattern, locate the zipper edge and mark your center guides. These panels will be placed on the opposite side of the zipper, so place the main fabric to the right side and the secondary to the opposite side with right sides together. Starting at the center, work towards the outside edge so both the main fabric and the secondary fabric line up on both ends of the zipper, and again we're going to have a gap at the end, so don't worry if it falls short. With it lined up and pinned down, stitch the edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. After stitching, flip the right sides out, lining up both layers of that top main panel. Place a few pins so the layers don't shift around as you're stitching, and from here we're going to add a top stitch to the opposite side of the zipper. I also recommend looking into an edge presser foot for the best results. Just like with the opposite side of the zipper, the top stitch really gives that edge structure and finishes off that curve. The next step is setting our O-rings, and I'm using a standard 1-inch O-ring. I'll be attaching it with a 1/2 inch ribbing. Feel free to use fabric, webbing, or ribbing to make your loops. You just want them to be long enough so the O-ring goes past the seam allowance and then you have some sticking off the outside edge. And we are placing these directly below the curve on the top edge. From here, we're going to stitch as close as we can to the outside edge, setting these into place. After stitching, it's best to see if they line up across from one another, because if they're not, it's going to offset the bag and make the strap and fit a little bit awkward. For the next step, we're going to take the back side of the top main panel and the bottom side of the back main panel, place them together with right sides together. And again, it's best to use that center and work towards the outside edge. The sides of the top panel should fall just below the zipper, and from here we're going to stitch that entire edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. After finishing up the stitch, double check, make sure all those layers got stitched together, flip the right sides out, quickly double check it from the right side perspective. You also want to look at the bottom curve of the edge. If it's not fully perfectly curved, you may want to go back and re-stitch it to make it a nice curve. But if everything is looking good, we're going to flip the wrong sides back out and clean up that bottom edge. The most efficient way to do this is using double fold bias tape, and I'm going to be walking you through a few different techniques you can use whether you're a beginner or advanced. The first method is using a bias tape making kit. In this technique, you make your own double-sided bias tape to the size and fabric you want to use. All you do is cut your strips, feed it through your folder, and press it when it comes out the folder. It's very easy to do, and you get to customize the bias tape to your exact measurements. The second technique is using a double fold bias tape binder. This is the most efficient technique. You cut your strips, feed it through your binder, and sew it directly to your raw edge. And the last technique is using pre-made double fold bias tape. You are limited to colors, but it's very easy to use. You fold it over the edge and stitch it down. And you want to make sure you apply it all the way around the outside edge. And I'm using the bias tape attachment. This is a great way to go if you plan on making a lot of bags. It cuts down on the production time and really makes for a professionally finished product. Once again, we're going to flip the right side out, double check it from the right side perspective. If everything is looking good, this bag assembly is complete, so we can place it off to the side and grab our 1 to 2 yards of 1.5 inch to 1 inch width webbing. Going along with the webbing, you'll need one strap adjuster, and this is a 1.5 inch strap adjuster to match my 1.5 inch width webbing. Start by feeding the webbing through the opening and sliding it down about 1 to 2 feet. The next thing we're going to add is a D-ring, and this is a 1.5 inch D-ring. Slide it on the same end as the strap adjuster. Pull some slack out of the strap adjuster and feed that same end back through the openings on the bottom side. Pull the end out about 4 inches, roll the end over, and pin it down. Make sure you're giving yourself enough room so you can reach it with the sewing machine. Before we add the stitch, we're going to cut one more 6-inch strip of webbing. And we're also going to feed this one through the D-ring, roll the end over once or twice, pin it down. With both sides pinned down and ready, we're going to add a tack stitch to both of the webbing ends. Just like that, the adjustable portion of the strap is complete. Feel free to try it on and see how big it is. If it's way too big, you can dethread it, trim it down, and re-sew it. The last thing we have to do to the strap is clean up those ends, and there's a few different ways you can do this. I'm going to be using the strap end cap panel. This is optional. You may need to adjust the width of the panel to match the width of your webbing, depending on the size webbing you're using. In the end, you want this panel to be just slightly wider than the width of your webbing. Going along with the leather ends, I'll be using dog leash clips. You can get these in various sizes and colors. Slide the end caps through the bottom opening of the clip, move it to the center, and fold the ends over. Place the webbing end in between the two layers, and there's a few different ways you can attach this. You can add a box stitch, or you can use double-sided rivets. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be punching 4 holes with the hole punch, and using 10mm double-sided rivets to secure it down. Feel free to change up the size depending on the thickness of your material. Then we're going to feed the rivet through each opening, add the backs. To finish it off, I'll be using a hand press, and you can use a hand press, pliers, or even a hammer die. The goal is to smush those two sides towards the center to lock all the layers together. If you want to make it extra strong, you can add more rivets, or you can even add a tack stitch up front. This is a very specific style of strap. I think it's more on the luxury side. That's why I wanted to make this style of strap. You could switch it out for a different style, or make something that works better with your fabric. All you need to do now is clip it onto your O-rings and try it on. But we're not done just yet. We're going to do one more step, and that's adding your branding. I used a similar technique to the strap ends. I used a little piece of leather, branded it, and added it with double-sided rivets. I like doing it this way because technically it adds another feature. It adds a loop so you can clip different things to that loop. But like always, have some fun with it and make something that's unique to your style. The great thing about this pattern is that you can actually change up the size of this. You can scale it up, scale it down, and make it custom fit to your use. Since it's only a few panels, you can just scale it up within the print settings, and it's very easy to do. Also, if you have any suggestions for pockets or straps, leave those in the comments so people can check them out. And there you have it, your fanny pack is complete. Hopefully yours turned out awesome. It's a very straightforward design, it's easy to make, and there's a lot of different ways you can do the final touches to make it look more luxury. So have some fun with it. I'd like to see what you come up with, so tag me on Instagram at Properfit Clothing, and until then, I'm gonna keep the videos coming at you, so I'll see you next time.